We are in a period of transition to a new era. Spirit has broken with its past world and is transforming itself. Spirit is always moving forward, much like a child taking its first breath after birth, marking a qualitative leap. Spirit matures slowly, dissolving its old world bit by bit, with signs of change appearing gradually. Frivolity, boredom, and a sense of foreboding signal the coming change. The gradual decay of the old world is suddenly illuminated by a burst of light, revealing the new world. The new world is not yet a complete reality, much like a newborn child. It appears first in its immediate form or concept. Just as a building is not complete when only its foundation is laid, the initial concept of the whole is not the whole itself. We are not satisfied with an acorn when we want to see a fully grown oak. Similarly, science, as the pinnacle of a world of spirit, is not complete at its inception. The emergence of the new spirit is the result of extensive cultural upheaval and effort. It represents the whole that has traversed its content in time and space, returning to itself as a simple concept. The reality of this whole consists of various forms that have become its moments, which will now develop and take shape anew in their new context and meaning. The initial appearance of the new world is simple and foundational, but the memory of previous existence remains. Consciousness misses the former range and specificity of content and the clear distinctions of form. Without these, science appears esoteric and accessible only to a few. True science must be universally intelligible, comprehensible, and accessible to all. It should be open to everyone and understandable through ordinary reasoning. The familiar and common aspects of science should bridge the gap between scientific and unscientific consciousness. In its early stages, science is vulnerable to criticism due to its lack of detail and form. However, such criticism should not undermine science itself, nor should it ignore the need for further development. This creates a polarization within scientific culture, with one side valuing material and intelligibility, and the other side emphasizing immediate rationality and divinity. Even if one side is silenced, the demands for development remain justified but unfulfilled. The resulting silence is partly due to the opponent's triumph and partly due to boredom and indifference from unmet expectations. The other side often displays a vast amount of familiar and well-ordered material, giving the impression that they have mastered all scientific knowledge, including unordered material. However, this apparent expansion is achieved through the repetitive application of the same formula to different materials, resulting in a superficial diversity. The idea remains primitive if its development is merely repetitive. Applying a single, inert form to various materials does not fulfill the need for a self-originating, self-differentiating wealth of shapes. Instead, it results in a monotonous formalism that only differentiates material that is already familiar. This formalism claims that monotony and abstract universality are the absolute, and dissatisfaction with it is seen as an inability to grasp the absolute standpoint. Previously, the mere possibility of imagining something differently was enough to refute an idea. Now, value is ascribed to the universal idea in a non-actual form, and the dissolution of distinct entities is accepted as speculative treatment. Dealing with the absolute involves declaring that everything is the same in the absolute, reducing cognition to vacuity. This formalism, criticized by recent philosophy, will persist in science until the understanding of absolute actuality becomes clear. Presenting a general idea in outline before detailing it can help grasp the concept and eliminate thought habits that hinder philosophical cognition. In my view, everything hinges on understanding and expressing the true as both substance and subject. Substantiality includes the universal and the immediacy of knowledge. The idea of God as the one substance was controversial because it seemed to submerge self-consciousness. The opposite view, focusing on thought and universality, is also simplistic. The question remains whether intellectual intuition can avoid falling into inert simplicity and accurately depict actuality. The idea is that substance, the fundamental essence of something, is truly actual or real only when it is also a subject, something that can act and reflect on itself. For substance to be actual, it must be in a state of constant movement and self-mediation. This means it must continuously interact with and differentiate itself from other things, and then reconcile these differences within itself. As a subject, substance is described as pure negativity. This means it inherently creates divisions and oppositions within itself. Substance sets up oppositions, differences, and then negates, resolves, these differences to return to a state of unity. True reality or the true is not a simple, original unity but a process of becoming. It is a dynamic cycle where the end goal is also the starting point, and it becomes actual only by working through this process. The life of God and divine cognition should not be seen merely as a playful expression of love. It must include seriousness, suffering, patience, and the labor of the negative. Divine life involves overcoming alienation and achieving unity. Both form and essence are essential, and divine essence should be understood and expressed not just as pure essence but also in its developed form. Only then is it fully actualized. The true is the whole, which means the essence completes itself through development. The absolute is essentially a result, becoming what it truly is only at the end. This nature involves being actual and self-becoming. Although it may seem contradictory, the absolute as a result is clarified through understanding. Initially, the absolute is universal, but words like divine or eternal only express immediate intuition. More than these words involves mediation, which is often rejected, but is essential for absolute cognition.